Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Defuse. I'm Alan IHOLDSHIFT on a Frio.
And I'm Austin Visions Neil.
I'm worried about the city behind me over here, that's the Chicago skyline. I'm hoping it's not in flames, but
It might be.
it
We
may
know the
be.
OpTiC trend.
It may be. Not a single map win. We'll talk about that later. Visitors, how you feeling, though? How we doing today? How we doing?
We're doing good, man. We're vibing.
Nice.
You know, got a lot of great games that came through. Some surprises, like you said, and yeah, we're about to get into it all. So, you doing good today? You doing good, Alan?
I'm doing great,
Feeling
man.
it?
Yeah, I'm feeling good.
Yeah?
I'm actually
All right.
wearing a Minnesota Rokkr jersey that I got in the mail the other day.
Okay.
So I
That's
think
good timing to probably get the merch, right? Now you can
yeah.
actually wear it with confidence.
And with a lot of confidence. And I think beyond that, I think I channeled some extra energy for the boys today, because I won't lie, I was like, do I wear the Minnesota Rokkr jersey today, or do I just wear a t-shirt or something? Like sitting there looking at me, and I was like, I just don't know if Minnesota's gonna win today. Like, I'll put it on. I'll give the extra energy through, even though my pick was the opposite. Well, it worked out for him. Let's talk. Speaking of, let's get into some First Blood to kick things off.
First Blood.
Goodness me. I mean, it's just, there are so many talking points.
First
We're playing
Blood.
this transition twice.
Just in case they didn't see the first time.
It's first and second blood today. just in case you didn't see it the first time. Lots to talk about overall, and I think it's only appropriate that we start by talking about the Minnesota Rokkr. Three times, no third blood, just two bloods today. What the heck? That's my only question.
What the heck? I mean, yeah. It just feels like we had framed up at the beginning of the week, like, oh man, like Rokkr, you know, they made a change that I think's good for them, but they got a tough week. You know, they're playing against OpTiC and Dallas. Like, it didn't necessarily feel like maybe they had a strong chance. These are two teams that are top four, right? Coming off stage one. So the fact that Rokkr is able to come out and won 3-0 fashion, right, on the debut for Standy, looked fantastic, looked good. And then this series goes to a game 5 for us, Alan. And it feels like everyone is maybe still kind of riding off this honeymoon phase, more or less, but it's allowing other people to step up. And I think someone today that you kind of have to give recognition to was Accuracy. I thought Accuracy played a really fantastic series today, especially in some of the S&Ds. He had a lot of big moments that I think gave them some of those rounds, and everyone else is obviously still contributing. Standy still looks fantastic. He's still making a lot of plays, and that's what they needed. They needed this playmaker that was an aggressive sub, and it's now just coming together perfectly here. So the fact that they win against two of the top teams, coming to stage one, it's mind blowing, man.
It is absolutely unbelievable. There is not a single person in this world that would have expected them to win both matches.
Right.
I think in a lot of people's minds, they were going to sit there and say, yeah, maybe a couple of maps here or there. Maybe they surprise a team that comes out flat, but it's Chicago and it's Dallas. What in the heavens is this? I mean, look, and this was the thing. You know, we go back and we relook at Minnesota at the beginning of the year, not just the anticipations of the roster, but watching them play through the first stage. There were more than enough opportunities to look at Major Maniac and say, what are you doing? I mean, he was all over the map. He was playing really, really slowly. He was not playing alongside his squad mates. And you could literally see the toil on someone like Priesta, who was trying to like connect all of the puzzle pieces. And now you've got Standy running that second SMG. You got Priesta, who can now kind of fill the gaps with an AR. And this is what we expected, I think, mostly from this squad. One of our biggest worries about this team overall is, could they play at the tempo like in Atlanta or Chicago? They weren't able to do that at the beginning of the year. Now we're getting what Minnesota should have been from the get-go.
It's just really nice to see overall for these guys, because I think a lot of people came in with the expectation that squad in general is probably going to be like a top 4 squad potentially, right? Like beating out maybe like some of these top teams that have assembled the kind of the God squads. And we just figured maybe with the synergy that's already within this roster, that might be enough to kind of, you know, pull out some of these upsets, pull off some of these wins against the top teams. And the fact that it's happening now is really scary, because you look at the overall group and there is absolutely a world where Minnesota actually could top this, right? Like come out with a couple of big wins and end up coming out here strong strong going in towards playoffs. So there's a lot that actually ends up unfolding now for as far as what they've been able to do and the teams that they've been able to take down. It is really surprising. And I'm sure there's a lot of teams that are also not ready for them because there was probably a lot more prep going in towards a lot of the other teams that were, kind of looked at for being at the top. And now you're like, oh, wait, we got to worry about Minnesota now. These guys are getting wins, and they're getting wins in dominating fashion as well.
It's the fact of, Minnesota's search and destroy statistically going into this stage was already really good. But I still had a lot of questions about their search and destroy in particular because a lot of the wins that they were building were tight wins, and they were versus not very good search and destroy teams. And their losses were bad losses. In the last 2 matches that they've played, though, their search and destroy has looked much better. Like, much, much, much better. Their opening setups on Express were incredible. Absolutely incredible today. Now, granted, if they're going to be playing that quickly, some sloppiness is going to naturally occur. But now I feel confident about their search and destroy. Still a little bit iffy on their hard point, but the fact of the matter is they only lost by about 70 points, which is not a terrible amount of, not a terrible loss versus a very good Dallas team today. And you got to remember the 100-point club Chicago. So all things seem to be tilting upwards. And the thing about it is I don't want to characterize this team as being in a honeymoon phase. I just think this is what the team should have been from the get-go. So the fact that they're already playing this well, I only see them growing from here. I only see them becoming just better and better and better.
I think that's the case, maybe. I'm still thinking that there's a lot of teams that are kind of underestimating them and overlooking them, so that maybe they're not putting as much prep in as a match that they might have against like a Dallas or something like this. I think that very well could be the case, but at the same time, I mean, it's possible, right? Like we already kind of framed it up at the beginning and said like, well, these guys are already at the bottom, so they only have one direction that they can go, right? And they're starting to rise in towards that direction, but we still need to see, I think, a lot more reps. Playoffs is going to be a great test for me to see, okay, like I have now confidence behind the squad. I think they look good, but again, I feel like it is, Standy coming in towards the roster. It's the first week. Let's see if this happens through the next couple of weeks, and then I'll be convinced. So we'll see what ends up happening.
And on the other front, for the Seattle Surge,
boy,
good grief. I mean, they lose map 5 to Dallas. Tight game though. They beat Paris pretty freaking convincingly today.
Yeah.
I mean, the search and the control was a wash. I mean, Seattle looked good all the way throughout the entirety of the series. How about them, getting a crisp 3-0 win versus this Paris Legion squad that I think a lot of people are still saying are top 8, at least up until this matchup, they were top 8.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously like a totally different roster now. And it's really strange because it was so bad last stage. Like it wasn't even close, right? Like you were looking at these guys like, we need to change, like something's got to happen. And they kind of just push through all that negativity through Twitter and through social media and get themselves to a point now where, again, they're also finding a lot of success. And maybe that comes off the back end of them simply putting so much time in towards the game, also kind of in this position where, they really only have, the opportunity to go up because they've been on this downward trend. And because of it, now they're actually just kind of putting things together, finding out how they want to play the game, and they're executing off of it. I think a lot of it also comes off the back end of one, what Gunless has been able to do, and two, I think that Pristini and Looney have now stepped up to a couple big moments. I mean, Looney is someone who's taken a lot of flack as well for as far as, he might be an in-game leader, but he's not the player they need. Well, I think that Looney stepped up again today. So Seattle looking a lot better compared to where we saw them last stage.
They've won their last 2 controls.
That's
great news. That is incredible news for Seattle. It's just really funny because I'm looking over at their stats page. They don't feel like a team that's just 3-6 overall. Considering that they almost won 3 straight matches in a row. I mean, if they win one of those round 11s versus Dallas, they're sitting at the top of the group by far, like definitively. I think they're still sitting on top of the group currently, but we'll talk about more of that here in a moment. It's just one of those things that what changed? Was it literally just the fact the M4 is no longer in? Because let's be honest,
maybe
we're not even seeing a lot of QBZ. Like in the last 2 days, the QBZ has been largely absent from what we have, at least for us. We cast a lot of challengers. It's all over the place. We saw very little of it. It felt like the times that we did see it was like Dashy pulling it out today. Didn't look like he was feeling comfortable running the Krig, so he pulls out that QBZ.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the only reason why? Because, like, how do you fix so much that was going wrong if you're Seattle with the same roster? Literally what feels like overnight. In my mind, it has to be a meta thing.
I mean, it very well could be. And I'm actually pretty sure that Seattle was against actually GAing the XM4. I think there was 3 teams in total that did not want to GA it. I think it was like New York, Dallas, and Seattle. So the fact that they were against the meta change and now things are going really well, I'm sure it's really funny behind the scenes, right? Like, all right, maybe we did want this because it is going great. But it also maybe makes you wonder for as far as, listen, like the game is being played differently when we're talking about the CDL matches compared to scrims as well. So maybe teams are frying with this QBZ and then they go in towards the actual league matches where things are a little bit different, and maybe it's they're not finding as much value. It's like, wait, this thing's not doing as much damage,
60
or
hertz
isn't as
not
consistent,
as
right?
Yeah,
Like I mean, that's definitely a factor. It feels like in some cases, right, with some of the pros coming in, a lot of the AMs coming up saying, listen, this is their first time playing it. This actually does feel like a different game. So I mean, that very well could be what's playing into them. But either way, I mean, you're not going to be mad if you're Seattle because you were rock bottom and now you're finding wins and you're actually looking good, right? I think that's the big takeaway, is that they're not just getting lucky or scraping by, like they're actually looking solid as a team.
So with this final minute that we have here on our predetermined clock, Seattle's got Chicago to start their week, to start the series off. That's first day, Thursday. And they play Minnesota. I mean, we'll talk more about this here in a moment, but do you feel like what you saw of Seattle today and the other day, do they have enough to beat a Chicago or even a Minnesota who's, again, looking really strong?
That's a tough question, right? Because OpTic's not looking great. I think they could beat OpTic because the thing, like just the way OpTic's been playing, like I don't know what's going on. Dashy isn't doing what he was doing in stage 1. And I think you can take, a massive advantage of that on the map when he's not finding the same kills. So I think it's possible Seattle take that one, but I don't see their play style taking down a team like Minnesota, who I think is going to stay hot going in towards that next week. So I think Minnesota would win that one.
It's interesting because literally for Seattle, nothing changed outside of the fact that largely they're not running 2 ARs for a lot of the games at least we saw today. I mean, there's so many moments. We'll talk more about gunless with an SMG later on, but it's just been so interesting that there seems to be a much bigger connection between what that front line was to that back line. There is a glue that is starting to exist now. I think a little bit because the SMG line is slowing down, but also because you've got AR lines speeding up a bit. Very interesting. So with that, we have to go and we're going to try to hold ourselves to 5 minutes talking about the group standings because I don't even know where to start. Well, we'll start with Group A. This one will be pretty easy to get through. Group A currently, Atlanta up top 3-0, LAG at the bottom 0-3. Everyone else pretty evenly mixed throughout, with New York in second, London in third, Toronto in fourth, and the Thieves in fifth. Do you see any potential shakeups when it comes to where those standings currently are, or do you think that's going to be what replacements end up being by the end of it?
I think things will definitely shake up for Group B. I mean, there's a world where Rokkr stays on this tear and is able to kind of rise towards the top. It's actually crazy to look at this and see Seattle surge first, tied with Florida and Dallas. I know it's tied right 2-1, but I think it is still funny in general. But yeah, I think that's probably the group that I think a lot of things could end up changing up in, for the simple fact that OpTic is at the bottom and no one expected that for as far as predictions.
So let's just stick with Group A to start. Do you see any shakeups happening in that group before we spend probably the large majority of our time in Group B?
Group A, I think things stay fairly similar. I think New York FaZe stay at the top. Maybe London Royal Ravens and Toronto end up switching around. I don't think LAG is going to come online this stage. I think it's going to be next stage with Venom because he's so new and they have a lot of work to do. But I could see like Ultra and Ravens kind of swapping places potentially if Ultra can maybe kind of get things going again.
That's fair. I think again, Toronto has to play up against both London and then also New York. I don't see them winning both of those matchups, but the same conversation exists with London. They have to play up Atlanta as their second matchup. So that, I think, is going to be a pretty influential one because that is a battle for third, essentially. New York just has to play Toronto, so you feel like they're going to be really prepared for that matchup.
Sure.
So I think that if there were to be a swap up, it'll be the most important will be between what happens between London and Toronto overall. Group B, though, like you mentioned, there is a 3-way tie up top with 3 teams at 2-1, pending this is refreshed all the way, which I believe it should be. Minnesota at 2-2 still has some work to potentially do, but they only play up against Seattle next. Then OpTic and Paris are at the bottom. I mean, I don't even know how to make a prediction as far as who gets out of this group at the top because Seattle, we'll start with Seattle. They have to play Chicago and Minnesota, like we mentioned. We kind of talked about it a little bit. Do you see them winning both of those matchups or one or the other or neither of them?
I think I could see them taking one. I don't think they take both. I could see Seattle kind of dropping down to almost like third, fourth by the end of this. But I mean, maybe they surprise it, like it's so hard, right? But I think they'll get one of the two.
Essentially, what if I'm reading this correctly? You get the 3 wins, and you're in the top 3. Because Florida also has to play 2 matchups. They've got Dallas, and then they've got Paris. So, I mean, figuring that they play as well as they did today, they should be able to probably beat Paris. That might be good enough to keep them in top 3. Dallas has to play up against not just Florida, but Chicago. And now you're kind of looking at that matchup if you're Dallas saying, that's a must win. Like, we can't afford to lose to a Chicago. That puts things in a weird spot.
Oh, man. This whole group is botched. Like, I think everyone was just like, oh, Dallas and OpTiC. Like, they, you know what I mean? They finished top 4 coming out of the major. Like, these guys are probably going to top the group. And OpTiC 1 and 2. I mean, Dallas 2 and 1, I don't think is like by any means kind of terrible. But yeah, this puts them in that matchup is actually so important for OpTiC because they need wins, dude. Like, they need wins, or they're absolutely starting in the lower bracket.
Literally, there is a potential that there be multiple 3-2 combinations that would be tiebreaker scenarios. But regardless of the theory crafting, who are your top 3 to get out of this, out of the group into the winners bracket to start things off for stage 2 majors? Yeah, Group B.
Oh, Alan putting me on the spot. I think Dallas gets out. I think Minnesota gets out. I think Surge. I'm gonna give it to Surge. It's tough because Florida. Yeah, I think I got Dallas, Rokkr, Surge. I don't think OpTiC is actually going to be able to bounce back from this. They might be able to make a run when we get towards like the playoffs and they get into tournament form, but man, things aren't looking good. I mean, they haven't lost or they haven't won a map the last 2 series. Like, what?
Yeah, that blows my mind. I think I'm going to agree with you.
Okay.
I don't see Florida keeping up this. Not versus Dallas. I still think that match versus Paris is questionable. So I don't have a lot of faith in Florida. I think Seattle can take 1, if not 2 of their matches. That should secure them a top 3.
Yeah.
And then I think Minnesota, well, they would have to beat Seattle for that to hold, actually. That's tough, man. It's tough because there's still a possibility if OpTiC went out, they could actually sneak from 5th to top 3. So there's a lot that can happen in the group overall. Chicago would have to win both of their next matches. They would have to beat both Seattle and Dallas, which is possible. But I think at this point it'd be very unlikely. I think that's going to happen. So I think for me, I'm looking. Oh man, I feel like you either have to go with the top 3 that are currently there, or you have to bounce Seattle out for Minnesota. There's no way that Seattle and Minnesota can both get in. Because Minnesota has to win their next matchup. And if they lose it, there's no way they're getting top 3.
Right. But I mean, they've already won against Dallas and OpTiC, right? So those are your toughest.
Absolutely.
Those are your toughest matches. So if you just take that last one, I mean, yeah, they could.
That's tough.
We could just think and talk about this like all night.
Let's put it this way. Final thought. Who tops the group?
Who tops it?
Who tops it?
I think Dallas is still going to top it. I still feel more confident in Dallas with that roster. I think their S&D is looking like piss poor right now. But like,
I think they fix that, though.
I think they can fix that. Like, I don't know. I still feel I have like the most confidence in Dallas. If Minnesota hadn't played one of their matches like from the first week, I probably would maybe be saying Minnesota right now, but yeah, I still got confidence in Dallas.
That was my pick as well. Okay, I'm glad we put some resolution on that because that was a dicey subject for sure. I feel like the listeners at large are like, what in the hell are these guys talking about? We'll make it a little bit easier on you. Let's get into a little bit of chalk or talk to finish things up. All right, for Chalk or Talk, obviously, if you're a first-time listener or viewer, welcome. It's good to have you. In Chalk or Talk, essentially what's going to happen is the show will provide us a hot statement, and we need to determine whether or not we want to chalk that up, not agreeing with it, or we want to talk that up, saying that we do, in fact, actually agree with that. And let's start things off talking a bit spicy here. Atlanta in the last control versus LA Thieves. Absolutely milked it to humiliate LA Thieves. Are you okay with that, or do you think it's too far to be humiliating like they did?
I don't think it's too far. I mean, I don't think it's too far, right? Like when you're looking at what the guys are doing, and you have to think of some of the players that are kind of on that Atlanta FaZe roster. Like they're a bunch of goofballs. They're having fun. I think they realize that they're obviously the strongest team currently in the game, so they're looking to have a little fun in these matches where they know they have a bit of an advantage, and it's good for content, dude. It's really good for content. I think you can promote that. I think it's really fun. Maybe you feel humiliated, but like the other side of it, you know what I mean, is like once they or if LAG or LAT is able to beat them, then you can do the exact same thing, or push that content, and then you have that little battle on social media. So I love it, man. I don't actually have too big of a problem with it.
Look, I'm gonna be the sour Sally here. I'm actually gonna talk that it was too far, just a little bit too far. Look, them going into pistols and stuff while they're still trying to capture the last zone or whatever, fine. But to leave Venom by himself, he's literally crouch walking through the middle of the map so someone could just finish it. Let's just finish the game. Slasher was already up out of his chair. I feel like that was a little bit too much. Just put the game over. We already know that you guys are clowning on him a little bit. You've made your point. Get through it. I don't know. I thought the last bit of it was a little bit too far. I know I'm a sour Sally for it, but I think overall, it's like the difference is like on the other side. When you think back to Modern Warfare, Clay in his little love shack inside a Hackney Yard. Different situation because he's capturing the flag, right? Like,
sure.
Totally different scenario. So I don't know. I thought it was maybe a little bit too far. I'm a sour Sally. Call it as it is. It's the way it is. I
don't know, Alan. It's fun. I think it's fun, man. Like we can't really shoot bodies anymore because it's the curse, right? If you shoot bodies, you're gonna lose the series no matter how many maps you have. So you gotta compromise a bit.
All right,
gotta do something different. Shake it up.
Well, you framed this next one up talking about Paris specifically with their struggles. Paris should actually go back to fire on an AR and scraps on an SMG, reversing the role swap they had before.
Yes, I'm absolutely going to talk this. I think that they should do this. And the reason that they should is because fire looks really uncomfortable. And if you're even thinking a lot of last year, like it felt like he was probably at his best when he had the M4 in his hands, when he was kind of, fighting through challengers. I thought he looked the best when he had the M4 in his hands. And I think it's the same thing for as far as this year. The XM4 obviously not maybe in the meta anymore, so we don't know what fire looks like with maybe a Krig or a QBZ, but I don't think it changes up for as far as, like a totally different outlook for him. I think that it would look a lot better, and Scraps, I think, is able to play both roles more consistently, where he didn't look the best, but he was still making plays and still doing a lot of the objective score for that squad, I think. And yeah, I just don't think that this current roster with the roles that they have look like they were in stage one.
I agree with you. I'm going to talk it for a lot of the same reasons. The fact of the matter is, Fire, he has the potential of taking over, and I think that we've seen it in instances with an SMG, but how he's playing alongside Classic just feels really, really awkward right now.
Yeah.
Seeing him on the objective for a minute and a half of hill time, you would normally say is okay, but he's like -9, -10, like by the end of the game. That's not enough, when it comes to how you kind of look to your objective SMG player. And specifically, I think the fact of the matter is he shouldn't be the objective SMG player. Let him kind of run rogue and kind of run around the map and do his own thing if you're going to put him on a sub. Don't lock him into one area. And I think just giving him the ability to run kind of that AR flex, whether it's with a QBZ or if he tries to play an aggressive Krig, would be more fitting of what we kind of know about Fire overall. Because let's be honest, that's how Paris kind of stole all of our attention in stage one was him running that second AR. And sometimes it was a second Krig that he had to pick up. So I agree. I think it's time to go back to that because let's be honest, Paris isn't making any roster changes that they took long enough to formulate a roster in the first place. So
yeah, it's tough scenes.
Chicago.
And this is also tough scenes.
Tough scenes through and through. 0-6 on the last two matches that they've played. So the statement with the great Chicago Fire here is Chicago will not finish top 6 in the stage 2 major.
I'm going to chalk this. And this is a thin line. Well, actually, there's like a lot of topics we have this show where it's like, man, it's so close. And this is a really close one because OpTiC, you got to give him credit from last stage, but the problem is we're in a bit of a different meta. However, I think that there is still something that clicks different in the minds of people like Formal and like Scump, I think in particular, when it comes to a tournament. It's like, okay, like money's on the line. We have to win. If not, and well, now we can actually receive a lot of the flack and actually feel like we can accept it because we didn't perform. And I don't think that those two in specific, you know, are going to fall flat when it comes down to tournament time. And even if they start in that lower bracket, the only problem I have is Dashy right now, I think is not really in that same groove he was in stage one. And that was where OpTiC found a lot of their wins. But I still think that they're going to have enough in the tank to at least break top 6. I don't think they're going to be able to contest maybe top 3, but I think they'll break into the top 6.
I'm talking this because I think they're going to be starting in the lower bracket, and this meta is not good at all for Chicago. They need to have that second AR, and I'm willing to just wager that 60 hertz QBZ, not the same as online 20 hertz QBZ that we're seeing all over challengers. There's no other way that would be happening. There is literally a point earlier today, I was like, I really wonder if there was like a GA in the CDL over the QBZ and no one's talking about it, because we have not seen it hardly at all, if at all, in the last 2.5 days until later on today when someone was using it. I was like, oh, okay, cool, I see it. It was Dashy who I think was the first one to pull it back out. But this is not Chicago's meta. I mean, Envoy looks very uncomfortable. You've got Scump, who's playing out of his mind, but getting very little help from someone like Dashy, who should be normally following up on his ground that he's taking. And Formal, I think Nameless was the one who was saying it in the post-show, he's not locking down lanes. Like, he's trying to play aggressive as if he still had an M4. They don't look like the Chicago from stage 1 really at all. So as surprised that as I am that they went 0-6 just because of the teams they were playing, it doesn't get any easier for them when they start to get to that top 6 form where they have to play up against one of these middling teams in Group B or one of the better teams from Group A that happened to fall down. So, I don't know. I'm going to take the spicy stance and say that they don't finish top 6 in stage 2.
It's certainly possible. Like, this goes either way. It honestly does. And I think they're going to buckle down. I think they're going to step up. But once again, we got to wait and see, Alan. We got to wait and see.
Well, often, if you follow the Call of Duty scene, you know about shooting bodies. But what do you know about shooting blanks? Here in Shooting Blanks, it's another kind of hot statement topics where we're going to be getting a statement with a blank that we have to essentially fill out. And we'll start things off with New York. They had a 1-5 comeback for the ages on the Search and Destroy. So with that, in your mind, Mr. Visions, NYSL's 1-5 S&D comeback was blank.
It was deja vu. Like, let's go back to Black Ops 2 Express. Let's think of where Clayster was on, dude.
I was wondering where you were going with this.
Yes, dude, it brings me back to where Clay was down 0-5 on Express against OpTiC Gaming, and they brought it back 6 rounds. Like, I'm sure, like, that was what was going through Clayster's head when he realized, wait, it's 5-4. Guys, it's 5-5. We can do this. We can win this. And when you have someone like Clay in your back pocket who's, you know, driving a lot of the comms and the vibes, like, I guarantee that's where his mind went to at some point in time to be able to pull some of that energy. And yeah, they pulled it off, man. That was crazy,
dude. Absolutely unreal. And I think the word that I'm going to go for, I didn't have a fun word for this one. I'm just saying that their comeback was revealing, and not just off the fact that, okay, London's got some more work to still do, which is, I think, one of the biggest things, because there were so many rounds they should have clutched up that Express Search and Destroy, and they were not able to do it. I mean, heck, they started off with that same map with like a 2v4 comeback. Like, London at one point in time was all over the place, and all of a sudden, what happened? But on the other front, while I was watching that 5-round comeback, there was a part of me in my mind that was like, this Subliners team, they can win stage 2. That was what was hitting my mind. Their composure that they have shown in a lot of their last couple of outings, that is where I'm seeing the revealing nature more so, is the fact that this Subliner squad, there is no such thing as, oh, this map is over in their mind. They can win in any situation, and that is not a bad London team. I think that this New York Subliners team can win stage 2 majors, and I got that reveal kind of in my mind, or epiphany, whatever, from that map specifically, which is why I went with my.
I like that. I mean, yeah, they were down to the 0-2 the other day, right? They brought it back 3 straight, reverse sweep, so there's a world where they could. I mean, this meta looks good for them. DC still looks great. That's possible. I like
I don't
that
know.
take.
I think there's
like that.
a very steep possibility they could win stage 2. We talked a lot about Seattle at the beginning of the show. We need to go back to it a little bit because the next statement we have is gunless with a sub is blank.
Disgusting. Disgusting, Alan. It's absolutely filthy to watch gunless, I think, pull up, another weapon. Not to say that, like, in our minds, we didn't think he could do it. It's just the fact that when he does, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, gunless. That's right. We know what you can do on the map. And I think it really was, kind of nice to see almost a similar form to where he was in the jetpack era where, he can swap, he can flex, he can do whatever you need. As long as you give him, a weapon that he's going to be able to kind of utilize with the players, around him, almost facilitate or almost kind of helping him for as far as what he wants to do on the map. It feels like gunless can go on these rampages. And there was a lot of moments like that in the S&Ds, right? Where it felt like he was just taking over. So, man, like, doesn't matter what weapon he has, Alan. It doesn's matter. He's just too good. He's disgusting.
That's why I'm going with gunless with a sub is a revelation. I mean, there has been a lot of conversation about gunless, and we could say in the last 3 years, really, right? We could go back to Black Ops 4 about like, does gunless still have it? That conversation, I think, started in BO4. Modern Warfare, obviously, we know what happened with the Chicago Huntsman at that point in time. And then still, I think questions at the beginning of the year with the Seattle Surge because it was really the Octane Gunless show. But was that enough to connect them to the front line? I guess you just got to put Gunless in the front line. And that's all you need to start finding some dubs because this year, this title, this is the revelation of Gunless of old, knowing that for sure he will still be a top-tier CDL talent, not just in this year, but likely for many years to come. The fact that he's able to showcase how good he was with the M4, how good he is with the main AR, sometimes with the Krig when it's required, but then also pulling out an SMG, this has been the resurgence, not just for the squad, but I think for Gunless's career overall. Mind-blowing performance from him today. Absolutely lights out, incredible.
Give me more. That's all I got to say, Alan. Give me more. I want to see more Seattle.
That's fine with me. We will not see that. But that technically brings us to the end of our predetermined content. Again, here on the show, on every Sunday, we reveal the premiere of Had Bad. If you have not seen Had Bad before, and I think my biggest problem, Visions, here is that we don't really have a way of incorporating our podcast audience into this piece of content because obviously it's just video reveal that we go through. So I don't know. We got to find a way to do that. But for those of you guys that are new and you have not seen Had Bad, you're missing out. We're just going to premiere this, let this thing run through, and then we're going to come back to do some viewer questions. So if you're live in the chat here on Twitch, make sure you start getting those together. But here is Had Bad episode number 3.
Gunfights in New York, well, might have been a little bit of life for the Gorillas. They're trying to snuff it out. Diamond Khan with the finesse. Speak of insight. Well, okay. My God. He gets another one.
They may have been able to sneak through players 1 and 4. This could set up a pinch and open up that A side.
Across from E5 New York. The pressure that they are applying right now is ridiculous. And that's a big reason why.
Was anything before either? Downtime. One shot. Whoa. I got shot on top.
Very well. Could find himself in a great
Position. Oh no! Oh,
Oh, no.
that cannot happen. Tries to go for the shot punch and Zed says absolutely not.
A little bit of a staggered push here for Gorillas. Maybe just try and slow down, wait for one shot. But insight, yeah, that's the edge of the map. You gotta be careful over there jumping. Really want to need it. Placer again. Cannot stay on any map.
No! It's the first time we've seen it come.
You're not really fine, but you just can't
like
get
this.
into it because they would
9 kills right now, leading the way for his team, but Standy takes down one bullet away. Fighting 3 in the wall thing with the back in the wall drop.
Over inside of the trains, he's able to drop 1. Paul able to reply as there's 2. Now up to 7 and 1, and Zed wins a nice fight up close again versus Asim. And now Mac left up in the 1 versus 2, and Paul hits the shot as well.
Over there, and Vidian has a player to win. Oh no! Execution out of nowhere from Vidian.
There's one life left. Uh-oh. Oh! God! Silent! Oh, it's awesome! Oh. Tombstone.
Well, there it is, episode 3 of Had Bad. It's quickly becoming my favorite piece of COD content, too. No bias.
Dude, the Parasite one. Oh,
The Parasite one was bad.
Yeah, his face sold it, you know.
I'm glad that you brought that up. So it's getting to a point where the mistakes in the CDL are becoming a little bit more reduced. So we are open to taking clips, obviously, from things like challenges. We look for those when we're casting and stuff like that. But I'm already willing to put out there, if there is a good had bad that happens anywhere in Call of Duty in the week, submit it to us. Just send a DM or a tweet at the Defuse if you see or witness a had bad on a Twitch stream, a YouTube stream. I almost said a Mixer stream, but rip. So
damn,
that's a had bad right there. I didn't have like a little punch board right there to hit that on stream. So if you witness anything, feel free to just send them either to individually us or, of course, to the Defuse social board on Twitter. That would be perfectly acceptable as well. Let's get into some viewer questions. We already have a handful that are coming in. We've kind of talked about this one before, but Cruzan asks, who do you got winning stage 2 of the North American Challengers Elite? He poses Easter or Subliners Academy. I think there's argument for more than that, but where's your head at, just to kind of get the answer up?
Yeah, I think Subliners Academy are looking the best. I think just based off of what they've been able to do, right? Like, they look so damn good. Hydra fits right in towards this great position with the AR, and he's like double positive, feels like every single respawn. And I think they're likely the favorites in the community's mind, but I still got a lot of favor for Easter, actually. I think that, you know, you said you needed John to win a stage here for you. Yep. I do think that Easter is going to be able to do it. I have confidence in these guys, and they're kind of my pick right now.
Okay. I actually don't know. Did Easter play the Cup today?
I don't think they did. I could be wrong, though.
Cup 10 that they played today?
Mm-hmm.
There's no... Wait, why is there no results? It doesn't look like they did. No, it does not look like they did. For some reason, there's like no official placement for North America for some reason. I don't know why. That's not there. That's weird. Yeah, so it'd be interesting, I think, to see when they do square up. But I'm sticking with my guns from when we talked about this on Wednesday. NYSL Academy is still my favorite to come off of it. I mean, they're just looking, they're playing differently than everybody else. I mean, I think specifically Spart running that TAC Flak QBZ is different than what a lot of people in Challengers are doing, and they're using it really, really nicely. So I'm still sticking with that. Tortle asks, what's more concerning, Empire or OpTiC Search and Destroy? And who will it hurt more?
It's a good question.
It is a good question. I already know my answer. I'll let you think. I'm going Chicago. The stat line came up today on stream that if it's not Moscow, and it's not Checkmate, the team is like 0-7 or something like that on every other Search and Destroy. If we're taking Garrison out of the picture. They're like 0-6 or 0-7 or something like that on every other single Search and Destroy. Their map pool is not good. And seeing them lose a round 11 today, in which it really should have been over faster than that from Florida on Checkmate, that's huge concern for me over.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think if it was like stage 1 right now, I probably would say Empire, because OpTiC was so good in respawns that they looked like the best hardpoint team in the game. So I was like, it's okay if they're dropping a couple SNDs here or there because they have the respawn to back them up. But now they're in a situation where the respawn isn't backing them up. Yeah. So I think I'm in the same boat as you, where OpTiC is a lot more concerning because it isn't even close a lot of the times. And yeah, Dallas loses, the round 11 today, and it could have went either way. So I think it does look more concerning for OpTiC. I agree. I'm with you.
I didn't realize this until I was looking down at the stats. Chicago is 0 for their last 6 Search and Destroys after they lost the map 5 to Dallas. They're 0 for their last 6 in Search.
Well, that's actually pretty bad.
Yikes. Yeah, it's real bad. It's bad, real bad. Not good news. Got it. I think that overall it's more concerning for Chicago. And actually, I didn't realize that statistic. That makes me feel even more confident that Chicago won't finish top 6 in stage 2 for my Rokkr talk.
Maybe.
Love when the plan comes
tough,
together
man.
like that. Let's see here. Oh my goodness, this is a big one from Samsan. We'll try to break this up in pieces. Do you think the Thieves took Kenny off the AK too soon? And if the results do not come, should they try putting Kenny back alongside Venom? Oh, put him alongside Venom in the SMG role.
Oh, over TJ.
Yeah, you put TJ on the flex role. There was rumor that was going to be what the change was when Venom got put on. Was that TJ was going to be running the second AR and Kenny would be sticking on SMG, but obviously that didn't happen.
Man, roles are so weird on that team. Because I feel like anyone could just about do any role besides Slasher and Venom. Like the other two, you could have changed around in Temp when he was there. You could have changed around too. I want to see. I thought LA looked the best when Kenny was on the AR.
I agree.
I remember watching Moscow's and I was like, this is the squad. I was like, that might be able to break in towards the top 3 when I made that overextended point. And it felt like Kenny has been able to at least have a big enough impact to do that. But man, I don't know. TJ, I think, is one of the better subs that we currently have right now in the league, as he is. And I don't know if putting him on towards an AR is actually going to fix that team. I think they just need to like roll with something for like at least a stage. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Let's just roll with something for a stage. And if you're going to make a change, make it now. But honestly, I think everything the way it is okay. And then that will help them grow going in towards stage 3.
I agree. I think TJ and Venom need to learn how to play together. Like,
yeah,
one of the biggest
it's not
things.
gonna happen instantly, right?
No chance. We talked about this earlier in early episodes. I feel like people underestimate how crucial Zaptius was to Venom's success on Wester. Like, those two together were the reason that I feel like Venom was able to find the opportunities to really shine. Because there is trust that Zaptius is going to be playing around the objective. So Venom just essentially has to evaluate, okay, where is Zap at on the map? How could I potentially give him some more space to breathe? And that's where we started to see Venom going off on these monster streaks because he was finding these incredible pinches. Now Venom's like locked into playing OBJ for the Thieves.
Yeah.
And his finesse is not, going to provide him the same amount of opportunity that he was being able to see on Wester. So I feel like they need to learn. I agree with you, my overall reaction. I think Kenny staying on the AR is the best choice. Do I think he maybe needs to pull out like a Spart mindset and just go tack flak and get involved more? Probably. And then, give a little bit more of this passing of the baton between who's going to be in the objective, because I feel like there's a lot of moments where it's like, I would love to see Slasher or Kenny jump on the OBJ, but they're not because they're running ARs.
Which is weird because there's a lot of teams that have now gotten into the mindset of like, let's get our ARs on the objective and let our subs, and let our subs, run around and be annoying and force early engagements, right? Like Toronto, I think, does that pretty well, at least looking at the LAG game. And the other team is Minnesota does that well.
Yes,
Minnesota does that well.
Really well right now.
Yeah, I'd like to see that as well.
This is a good question for Blues Till I Die. Does FaZe lose before the end of stage 2 major? And if they would lose, who would they lose to?
I don't think they do.
I don't think they do either.
I don't like that answer. I really don't. I want to be like, oh yeah, this team, I think they could take it down. I think it's possible, but no, I don't really have one that really comes to mind that I think that can beat them now.
For my money right now, if they were to lose in stage 2, they're not going to lose before stage 2. I don't see London beating them. I don't see LAG beating them. They're going to cruise to a flawless group. Once they get in to the playoff bracket, the upper bracket, they'll be playing up against whoever finishes 3rd in Group B, which is, I don't see them losing to anybody in Group B. They would, in my mind, if they were to lose anywhere, it would be winners finals versus NYSL.
Yeah.
I don't think any other team right now could beat them besides the Subliners.
Yeah, I think the Subliners are like best bet.
Because Dallas
I want to see Rokkr play up against FaZe too.
Yeah, but like Minnesota's hard point is not good still. So like that's where they lose that series, is by not taking a hard point. They don't lose to Dallas because Dallas's search is bad. We've already seen that in stage 1 major. I mean,
we did.
So I don't see like a Seattle beating them. Obviously, OpTiC has got to worry about themselves. I think the only team that's out there that could beat Atlanta right now is New York.
Yeah, maybe you're right. It's hard to make an argument for anyone else because anything else that these other teams do, like if you're like pull out, okay, like who could maybe match them in hard points? I think what would come to mind would have been OpTiC, but they're not looking great. It would have been Ultra potentially last stage at the beginning, but now they're starting to fall off a little bit, and the subs can't really match BZ and Simp. So yeah, like there's really no one else I think that you can make an argument for.
Yeah.
Because they got them beat in multiple different game modes. Like, and New York's the only team I think that is at least consistent through all of them.
Agreed. That's where my mind was going.
And they've only dropped the map like 3 series.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, dude.
Get a grip. What is that?
Dude, it's stupid is what it is. At the tippy top asks, who do you think has waited too long to make a role or sub change? I already know how you're going to answer this because we talked about it in the last episode.
Yeah, I think it's got to be LAG still. I wanted to think of something else to kind of throw Alan off, but nothing was coming to me. Yeah, I mean, I think it's LAG, right? At least for me. I brought up a lot of my points. I don't see it, Alan. I don't. I know you got like this long vision, down the line, maybe a couple stages, a little click, but
I do.
Not seeing it, man.
I think stage 3, they start to put it together.
Oh, next stage?
I think next stage they start to put it together.
I mean, they're not a bad team.
They're the best bad team so far this year. I'll say that much.
Yeah, because they play a lot of series close, like super close, a lot of game 5s. It's just like they're not like good enough in a game mode to like look convincing, I think, for me. So like I really do think a role change would help. I still think it's Assault. Like I don't think Assault is I don't know, like he's not like terrible,
right?
But I think there's better options. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think there's better options to play with people like Vivid and Apathy who are like really, really good aggressive subs in this game. Like you get more of like a flex, dude. Think of like if Hydra just keeps rocking this AR. Just imagine Hydra on that squad.
That's so true.
The AR. Just think about that.
Here's the thing that
I don't know.
Here's why I don't think LIG is going to make a change. They still haven't changed their academy roster.
Oh God, actually, that is so true.
Oh
my God.
This team is finishing top 24 if they're lucky.
Yeah, on a good day.
Like, what the heck? I mean, that's a whole nother point of conversation.
It is.
Like, they signed that team before the game was out, dude.
Yeah, they jumped the gun.
Like, what the hell? Where did they finish this? Did they even make it into the top 32? I can't see because the results page isn't up yet. Where did they finish?
I mean, I think they had one good run. I think they've only had one good run in the cup where they got
and nobody played that week. Yeah, because it was the first week out. Yeah, they finished top 16 in Cup 9.
Oh my God, I actually like totally forgot about their academy roster because they've been so irrelevant. And that's with Mental too. Like the guy who everyone had their eyes on talking about, does he deserve that sub spot? And well, it's looking like we're getting almost a defined answer now.
Yeah, dude. I don't think LIG is going to make a change because they've got nobody on their bench. I would have gone to Paris, so they also have nobody on their bench that they could potentially go with. But I don't see that management team caring. I hate to make it sound so blunt, but I don't think they care at all. They're paying everyone league minimum. They picked up a coach that, to be fair, I think was being slept on, but I feel like
LAG's doing that too? I didn't know that.
No, I'm talking about Paris.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying Paris I don't think is going to make a move either.
Right.
But I think they need to.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm at with that one. Let's take one more here. Let's do this one from Active One because I think the second question from Blues, how long do you think before teams catch up to FaZe? Infinite amount of time. I don't think anyone's catching up to FaZe anytime soon. Should OpTiC have retained Arcides? What's not clicking with Dashy for OpTiC?
That's tough because Arcides wanted to be a main AR. So I actually think Arcides wanted to stay on the team, but it came at cost of dropping Formal.
Yeah, right.
you're not going to drop formal. You're not going to drop formal. So I think that was one of the main reasons why Aristides wasn't on that roster, even though he wanted to be. I mean, what's not clicking for Dashy? I mean, it has to come down to the meta. There's no other way to put it.
That's how I'm thinking.
I mean, how do you go from MVP form, looking like one of the best players in the game? In my eyes, last stage was one of the best players in the game, and now is looking like he barely has a grip on each game in each game mode. Like something's off there, and either it's like a massive learning curve that they haven't been able to kind of figure out, or it's just the fact that Dashy can't find his form with the new weapons that are in the meta.
That's where I'm at too. I think for Dashy, it's literally a weapon thing, which is really tough because we kind of said the same things last year for Modern Warfare, that he just wasn't quite able. We said the same thing about all those famous, infamous Maddox players from Black Ops 4. Yep. They could not find a way to work in one of two camps, either M4 or SMG. It's kind of the same thing now coming forward, where you've got Krig, you've got 74U. I mean, the QBZ over the last couple of days has started to really not show itself all that much. And I have to imagine it's a 60 hertz thing. But regardless, it's what do you do? If he's not good with a slow main AR, and he's not good with a super fast-paced sub, do you have to maybe consider, let's put it this way. Let's finish off this episode with a hot question. Where does OpTiC, what would have to go wrong for OpTiC to start considering changes?
Oh, maybe losing the first round.
If you get DFR'd,
if they start lower bracket, you get DFR'd. You don't. Yeah. Do you look for a change? You look for something. Like, you can't tolerate that. Scump's not going to tolerate that. Like, all the players themselves aren't going to tolerate a performance like that. I don't know if there would be for sure a change after stage 2. Because who do you have? You got General. You're not going to bring General in for anyone, I don't think, right? It would have to be stage 3. If the same thing happens in stage 3, then you look for it. Even if they get double FR, I don't think that they change anything.
Okay. I would have probably said stage 3 as well, because I do see a meta change coming in with GAs after stage 2.
Possible.
But the thing is, we're also still waiting on the weapon balance patch that's supposed to be coming out. We have to keep that in the back of our minds. I don't know.
That is true.
I'm gonna be honest. I haven't seen patch notes. I haven't really looked for it though either. It just comes down to, if the meta stays 74U and Krig, you still have those Maddox players that are struggling. That's why I look at Gunless right now saying, like, the fact that he's able to pick up that third sub and rock with it, that's going to lead to good things for Seattle if a QBZ GA doesn't come into mix.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're seeing, like, in EU, Team Passion. Why is one of the reasons that they're winning everything? They have probably the dirtiest 3 SMGs in combination with each other as a trio.
It's true.
That could be the same thing. Okay, cool. That brings us to the end of our show. Good episode. I feel pretty strong about that one. It was good.
There was a lot of, like, on the fence topics today, which is not what we always have. So yeah, it was good. We like that.
We do like that.
We like that.
For all of you people that may be new to this, you've never been here before, the first time seeing it, we run this show every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday that there's a CDL week. On the off week, we're going to try to do a midweek episode as well. And of course, we upload to all of your favorite podcast providers. Visions, love you.
Love you too, buddy.
Oh my God.
We haven't been able to hug in person yet.
Ever.
But it's going to come one day.
Not a single time. It's going to be a great hug, too. I'm not going to let go. You're going to be the first one to break the embrace. I'll let you know that right now. That's just what's going to happen.
I'll hold you to that.
All right, bet. You better. Well, until next time, friends, we'll catch you on Wednesday after Stage 2 comes to a completion for Challengers. Do not miss it. We'll catch you right back here. Until that point, do not let your fuse fizzle out. So long.